Hi everyone. Thank you for joining us. My name is Wesley Holden. I'm a product advisor here at Totara Learning, and today we're talking about analyzing your learner's performance in Totara Learn. So, thank you for signing up and coming to join us. Today is really going to be focused on course reporting. A couple of just pieces before we really jump into the content, though. We're going to be recording this session, posting it up on YouTube, making it available via Totara.community. So if you do have questions, if you want to ask it anonymously, you can go through the Q&A tool and just choose to post it anonymously. Otherwise, feel free to post your questions in the chat or in the Q&A. Either way is fine. And let's go ahead and jump in. So course level reporting. When we talk about the levels within Totara, what we're talking about is different contexts, different areas of the system where information is going to be gathered from or permissions are going to apply to, where you can do stuff. I mean, honestly, is what it comes down to. There is reporting at the site administration level. Excuse me, I shouldn't say site administration. There is reporting at the site-wide level, so meaning that reports that may touch multiple courses, maybe about user management or things like that. So that's sort of the highest level of reporting where it's pulling from lots of different areas of the system. Course level reporting focuses on a particular course that a user is enrolled in. So one thing I did want to do is just define that very quickly, because for some people, they consider their SCORM to be a course, which is totally fine. That's appropriate language. But I want to make sure that we're on the same page for this. So what I'm going to do is just go to my demo site and pop in there. And I think should just take a second. So I'm going to go in as an administrator. And you can see that there are some reports. So I have this report that's like site logs by day of week that I see when I first log in. And this is a site-wide report, so it's going to pull data from all across the system. But what I care about is those course reports. So if I go into a particular course, like let's actually go through Find Learning, and then I go into my health and safety course, which if you want to run test reports, the demo site is a great place to do that. It's just demo.totaralearning.com, because there's lots of data out there that looks realistic. So you're able to run your reports and see what's going to be in them. So the reports that we're going to focus on today are those which within a course page, under the course administration, under the course administration area, there's reports. So we're going to take a look at these reports today. Now, one thing I have done is I've taken some screenshots of those reports yesterday before the site automatically reset. Occasionally, you will go to run a report and the data table won't show up. So for example, like if I go to actually course completion, that'll work for example. If I come in here and I didn't have any users enrolled in this course, or I didn't have any activities, I may not have a table that appears with my data because there's no data to display. Most pages are really good about just saying like no data to display rather than just sort of being blank. But I just wanted to give you forewarning because the reports we're looking at today actually behave a little bit differently than the reports from Report Builder. These course reports are ones that were inherited when we brought the code in. And so we're using it's like, slightly different technology, I guess would be the way to put it, when we're looking at these particular reports. You'll also notice that your ability to filter and download the data is going to be a little bit different than what you're used to seeing with like your Report Builder reports as well. So just some things to keep in mind. So now I'm going to go back into my screenshot. Just remember that all of the reports I'm looking at within those screenshots are going to be available through the administration block here. So course administration and then reports. And these will show up automatically in your courses. You don't have to do anything special for them. They just appear when the course is actually created, just like your grade book and things like that automatically show up. These will automatically show up as well and will populate as is appropriate. Let's go ahead and pop that screenshot open. So the first report we're looking at is course completion. So typically in corporate training, we're not really looking at grades necessarily. We might have a grade for a quiz of like you have to get at least a 90% to pass, but otherwise we're not really looking at percentage grades like you have to get a 96% or higher for this course to be considered complete. Often what we're actually looking at is just a cumulative score of, or accumulation of completions. So in this case, this report is displaying all of the activities that have completion requirements set up and their overall status. So there was something called "Is it a problem?" "Know your first aid," and based on these different icons, we can tell what sort of activity they are, or if they're a resource. So in this case, we have a couple of files that they just had to go read. They have a SCORM that they need to go complete, obviously quizzes and things like that. But this report is just showing us for each user whether it's complete or not, and this little circle will be automatically filled in when the person meets completion conditions. The square is recognition of prior learning. So this is where you can go if, let's say, Amy Administrator, a very creative naming, maybe there's some reason she wasn't able to do this particular problem. Like maybe it's a SCORM that has text embedded in an image, and so she's unable to complete that because it doesn't work with her screen reader. We're able to come in, and this is an interactive report where we're going to be able to go in and actually check that box for recognition of prior learning to say, yes, this person has met this requirement. And that will be true for the boxes for each of the activities. And then over here on the right, the one for overall course completion as well. So what's nice about these reports is that they're interactive. It's not just about going and getting data out, but it's actually being able to have an additional access to the user interface to go and make some changes. You can also click on Edit to get into some deeper details around course completion for these users, but this is just sort of the high level. So in this course, I only have 6 people enrolled, so things like being able to, filter based on first name or last name, first initial isn't quite as helpful, but when you have hundreds of users, it's a very useful piece. So overall, this is just showing us course completion, so we can very quickly go, okay, nobody has done this one activity, like what's going on there? Then the next one we're looking at is site logs. And if you have any questions, please just pop them in as we go. With site logs, we're essentially logging everything a user does from the time they log into the system. So here we've got Amy Administrator. Oops, let me not click that while I'm using my mouse to kind of walk around through it. And we can see like minute by minute what Amy was up to. So this is actually my administrator account. So essentially we're seeing the steps up to me logging into the system, me going in and um, like assigning roles, viewing a course, viewing a completion report. So you can see where I've actually like walked through and looked at each report. That's as I was doing my screenshots. So we're able to see what a user's doing, where they're doing it. Um, this is helpful for troubleshooting. If somebody says like, well, I logged in and I'm not seeing any completion for my stuff, or I completed this activity, but now my grade isn't showing up. You can go in and go, well, okay, I can see that you logged in and it looks like something may have happened at some point. For some reason, the file didn't upload or something. So we're able to just get some more information here. At the top, you have some filters, so you're able to filter based on course, individual participants. You're able to look back a certain number of days if you want to. So if you're looking in the last 7 days or on a particular day, you can do that. We can look at specific activities. So you get to decide how you want to sort of dig through that content. What I'll say is that the logs have a ton of information available. I mean, it is literally basically a data dump of every single step a user took through the system. Um, the other reports are often using information from this logging. So for example, I'm going to skip over live logs for a second and come back to it. When we look at, for example, this activity report, we're able to see for particular activities how many times they were viewed and by how many users. And we can see the last time it was accessed. So all of that information is actually coming from the same source within the database. It's just presented in different ways. So you decide the way that is most helpful for you. I know I use the logs a lot, but it's because I'm often coming from a more technical, like administrative perspective. So I'm doing more troubleshooting. But if I'm a trainer and trying to get an idea of how my resources are being used, then I wouldn't necessarily want to use this report. Live logs are really similar to the regular logs. Regular logs are just like a history of basically all time since the system was set up. Live logs report on the last hour and will automatically update live if you choose. Activity report is another really helpful one. This is a great way to see what people are using. So if you look down through, you can see for each activity, and that will include activities and resources in my course, the number of views and by how many users. So you can see, for example, like the right response down here, 33 views by one user. So this is a resource that someone may be coming back to a lot. Um, Saving Susie, people are coming back, two different users came back, they probably have this number of hits split between the two of them. So it could be that there were many pages to it. It could be that they had to come back multiple times because it was like a long SCORM or a long file to read. So we can kind of keep track of what resources are getting used. And it's kind of sad because I realized my screenshot does everything's actually in use. um, what's really useful about this is being able to come in and go, oh, no one's ever looking at my announcements. Like that's a problem. That's why nobody, that's why everybody like missed a session or didn't know about something. You can also see if, for example, there's a resource that's just not in use. So for example, this resuscitation training, that's a seminar that I want people to come sign up for. And if nobody's viewing it, I can go, oh, why is nobody signing up for my sessions? Come here and look at it and see, okay, there, maybe there's a ton of views, but nobody's signing up. And I can figure out if it's like an activity setting issue or if there's something about the workflow that's not working for my users or what's going on there. What's nice though is that if you use blogs on your site, you can also see related blog entries that have been sort of linked to these different activities. Um, then finally, last access. When's the last time somebody touched this? Some of these are over 200 days ago that people actually accessed them. So it's a really, but one is like an hour ago. So why did they access that resource but skipped over the rest? This next report is looking at course participation. So this is another one of those like sort of more interactive reports. It gives me the ability to go and choose a particular activity or resource from my course page. In this case, I chose the one called cybersecurity. I can look back over a set number of days. Like in my case, I think I just looked back like one day based on the user's role. And I can say, okay, I want to see all of the users who have taken no action with a certain activity module. So this previous one told us from the activities perspective, like nobody's been touching this. And now this report is allowing us to go, okay, let's send a message to all these people, literally. We can go in and we can say, okay, everybody whose action is set to no. So Cameron has been like going in here and, really actually accessing things, but nobody else is. So we can come in and select those users and use the selected users dropdown to actually send them a message. It's just a plain text message where we can say like, hey, I see that you haven't accessed this lesson, you need to go do it. This next report is kind of similar to that course completion. This is overall activity completion. So it's going to show all of my users enrolled in the course and then all of the activities that have completion rules set up for them. So it doesn't matter if they are related to course completion. Remember, course completion, I think, showed like maybe 5 activities. And now we can see quite a few more activities within my course that have activity completion rules set up on them. So we're able to see, for example, with Cameron, he had completed the course. He's done not all the activities, but about half of them. So it might be useful to come back and say like, hey, I noticed that you missed this question on the quiz. If you had read this resource, then you'd have had that information. So I'm going to pop over to a live system. I mean, that's the reports that come from my demo site. But I want to just show you those sort of live. So we could just come to, again, course administration and access those different reports. Take a look. And those are the course level reports that are available through the administration block. There are other reports that are also available within activities that are going to be really useful for you. So if we go, what do I want to do? Let's go up to, back to the actual course page. Okay, and if I'm looking through different activities that have really useful reporting, quizzes, SCORMs, and lessons if you use lessons. So if we go click in here for one of these activities, If you look under your administration block, if there's reporting about that specific activity available, you can come in and click and there will be a reports option. So in this case, we can view detailed statistics about the use of this particular lesson activity. So if we click in, it's going to give some information. In this case, I don't know that anybody's actually been working on it, so we don't really have any class statistics, unfortunately, but it gives you the ability to get in there. The ones that I use most frequently are SCORM reports and quiz reports. So if you haven't gotten in and used those, I highly recommend checking them out. Um, Seminars also have a ton of reporting available. So if we come in, we can say, okay, like, let's see who's been signing up for sessions. Um, we can also look at things like the declared interest report. So we can see if people are interested in sessions, but maybe they can't attend because the dates don't work for them or the location's not great for them or something like that. So definitely check your administration block, both at the course level and at the individual activity level to get more information. And those are the kind of the biggies that I like to point out. So let me click in. I want to show you one more piece from here. Actually, no, not the lesson, the one just above it here. So this SCORM is a little bit different with its reports. There's actually a reports tab that will show up. If you are like a site administrator or a trainer or an editing trainer, that reports tab doesn't show up for learners. So we can go in and see just some basic reporting, the folks that are enrolled in the course, if they've made any attempts, when they started it, when they last accessed the SCORM. So in this case, the person was in there for about a minute. So hopefully they'll come back to do more work. And so we're going to be able to see the SCORMs are nice because they track multiple attempts or as many attempts as you want to within its reporting. So we can come in and see, we can see the number of interactions and if it's incomplete or if it's been attempted even. So it's just sort of like different views of sort of that same data. If Cameron had actually come in and made multiple attempts, we'd be able to see that here. But in this case, he just has one attempt so far. So this is data that's available to you through your sites. These reports are available automatically. You don't have to do anything special to have them. It's just stuff that comes with the system. It's all canned reports right out of the box. If you want additional reporting, so more ways to sort of look at the same sort of data, you can have your site administrators build reports for you. Or if you're a site administrator, you can build reports for yourself or for other users. So if we go to the reports tab, there are sources. Many of the sources are like sort of very high level. So for example, like course completion, the course completion sources will show you things like, in this case, it's showing from the course perspective, course name, number of people that have completed it, number of people who haven't completed the courses. So there's different ways you can sort of cut the data and display it. You can also have course completion that actually shows you by individual. So you can actually see and there we go. So this is a similar view of that same data, but it's also got a graph on it as well. So if you want a little graphic view of that. The nice thing about these sorts of reports is that if it's a report that I'm going to access every time I come in, like if I regularly want to see, for example, SCORM and course information, let me pop in there. So we can see all of the individuals, their courses, the modules that they're working on. So this would be the Totara course name. This would be the actual SCORM's identifier, so the module name. We can see everybody's attempts, when they started them. There are more columns we can add. So the nice thing about the report builder reports is that we can edit them. We can add more filters. We can say, okay, I want to be able to, take a look at who's taking a super long time at this. Let's get an idea of how long people spend on this material, etc. What their status is, if it's recording a score, etc. And the cool thing about this is I can get SCORMs from all over the system, not just one course. But I can see, for example, one user across multiple courses. Like with Cameron, we can see that he has four different SCORMs that he's worked on. And I might be able to notice patterns with him. He takes 20 to 30 minutes to get through those. Or that might be 20 to 30 seconds actually, to get through those, because a lot of the ones on the site are like, maybe a click or two to get through. But if you're seeing someone who's regularly taking like an hour to get through a SCORM, and they're doing decently in their scores, but they're not doing things out in the field afterwards, like maybe you want to come back and revisit their training and go, okay, like I see that you completed this, but it looks like once you got in the field, you forgot this information. Like, let's figure out what happened, or let's figure out a training that will work better for you. That kind of thing can be really helpful. We might also see Cameron coming back and accessing things over and over again, revisiting concepts and things like that. And if we see a lot of people doing that, it tells us what resources we need to build, which can be very helpful as well. But there's a lot of cool things you can do with all of that data that's sitting there in the system. I'm just going to pop into the site administration area into the report builder real quick because I want to show you some of the course report sources that you'll want to have a look at. I'm just going to go create a new report just so I can show you what that list looks like. If you've never built reports before, talk to your site administrator, or potentially there's a course within Totara community that tells you how to build them. There's also videos out there of other webinars where we've talked about building reports specifically, both graphical reports and just charts and things like that. So if I scroll down, things that people care about from the course level, there's going to be a lot of course completion, courses by organization. So if you're using organizations, course completion, including history, is important. If you want to look at courses that have that the user has to recomplete or recertify in over and over and over again, because then I'm going to be able to see maybe the person's score has gradually increased every time they've taken the course, or maybe it's gradually decreased because they've been you know, not actually looking at the content each time. You'll be able to track that information by looking at those sources. Just kind of scrolling down through, those are the big ones, the course ones. The other ones that you'll want to take a look at are going to be overall program completion, certifications as well. Will be in this here. And then there's a SCORM source specifically. Now, keep in mind that those are the only course level reporting tools. There's also some seminar pieces that show up here as well. But for other activities like lesson modules and wikis and things like that, all of that data, all of that reporting will be contained within the course itself. So those are the big pieces I had to talk about today. If there's any questions, please feel free to pop them into the chat or into the Q&A area. What I'm going to do is just pop open my PowerPoint real quick because I just want to talk you through some upcoming events and things like that. But again, please feel free if you have any questions to let us know. So coming up later this month, actually in a couple of weeks, I'm also going to be talking about group resource creation in Totara Learn. So we just released a course on workshops, and so I'll be talking about the workshop module, which is used for peer review of work. Oh, actually, no, that's I'm conflating my two webinars. So this one is going to be group resources is going to be on creating things like wikis and glossaries and discussion forums so that users can work together. There's going to be on Wednesday, November 16th, 6th, we're going to talk about peer review and workplace mentorship. So that's where we're going to get more into allowing you to use use workflows and things like that to allow your students to peer review each other's work. It's where, if you haven't heard the term MOOC, look it up, because that's where that sort of tool is going to come into play, where maybe you have thousands of people signed up for a course, so you can't necessarily grade every single assignment or review every single document someone puts in, but you can allow people to peer review each other's work. And so a way to do that is going to be using that workshop module. Some face-to-face stuff we've got coming up. I'm going to be, along with about 4 or 5 other team members, at DevLearn in Las Vegas next week. So we're going to be at the LMS forum. Jonathan Newman's on a panel, and I'm going to be talking about VTNZ. It's a case study out of New Zealand, talking about their transition, starting with Totara Cloud and moving up to a fully fledged solution. So come join us at the booth or the expo if you're going to be in town. We also have a Totara Partner Meetup in 2020 coming up in February. I can't believe we're talking about February already, but there it is. And in Sydney, there's going to be a trade show, the L&D Innovation and Tech Fest, November 18th and 19th, if you're interested in those. So if you're interested in learning more, please visit us at Totara.community. You may already have an account, which is great. Come ask us questions. If you're looking into more learner analysis and there's specific performance things you're looking for, let us know. Everybody, I don't want to say everybody has different performance indicators, but every job has slightly different ones. But the more we hear from you about the business cases you're trying to solve, it helps us to develop the tools that will help you be able to do that. So come join us, ask questions, suggest features. Join us on social media. We have a LinkedIn group. We're on Twitter at Totara Learning. Thank you all for your time and attention. Have a great rest of your day. Yeah, and if you have any questions, please feel free to go ahead and pop them in. I'm just gonna pop the chat open just to see if I missed anything. Okay, I'm not seeing any questions, so feel free if you do come up with something, uh, come to Toter.community, ask the question in the forums. If I don't get to it, then one of my colleagues will, and be able to either point you to a resource or get it into the suggest features area so that other folks can look at it and be like, yes, this is something that sounds really cool and be useful. And that means that our team will be able to take a look at it as a potential feature in the future. So thank you all so much for your time and have a great rest of your day.